So people that are newer, 5 to 6.
Yeah, I know.
Absolutely. GOP page, I couldn't do it either. Yeah. And then I said, she said, okay, Mike, join that.
You got the executive sessions. What's it?
It's the resolution that the public doesn't speak about, and the public will, section will already take place. I thought they would come back in. Oh, you're going to come in, I thought you were at the thing, you could speak.
No. Is there actions that can be made?
I'm not, there's a lot of.
Go downstairs with somebody come get us.
The answer is Adam usually goes and checks the doors to make sure that it's, everybody's out here or downstairs.
So typically I do is shut that door and
Gotta go out, it might be raining.
that's the new we're trying not to get around.
Yeah. And I just thought about, well, I'm never going to count. If it's not working, I'll shake his hand and I'll probably leave the meeting anyway. Which is exactly what happened. So there you go. It's always good that we wait
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of 2022 meeting dates was published in the Houston Express Times and the Hunterdon Democrat on February 17, 2022, and posted on the bulletin board at Borough Hall. Action may now be taken. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. call.
Barry,
Here.
Graham, Hughes,
Lynn is going to be a little bit late tonight.
Schwartz, Sylvester, Strange, and Lee.
Here. Okay, no mayor's comments tonight. Can I get a motion to dispense with the reading of the March 31st, 2022 regular minutes? Second. Roll call.
Graham, Hughes, Schwartz, Sylvester, Strange, and Fair.
Yes. Motion to approve the March 31st, 2022 regular minutes.
Move.
Second. Roll call.
Graham, Hughes, Schwartz, Sylvester, Strange, and Fair.
Yes. Okay, we have two proclamations tonight. Proclamation in support for Arbor Day, Hancock. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Norton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set forth for planting trees, and whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed in the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cutting heat and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, use life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife, and whereas trees are a renewable source giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, now therefore be it proclaimed by the Borough Council of the Borough of Highbridge that we do hereby proclaim Friday, April 29th, 2022, as Arbor Day in the Borough of Highbridge, and we urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day by planting a tree to support efforts to protect our borough trees. We're reading out loud. Proclamation in support of Earth Day. Whereas in 1970, U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson created Earth Day, whereas it was first held in the United States on April 22nd, the birthday of J. Sterling Morton, the founder of Arbor Day, whereas the first Earth Day led to the creation of the United States Environmental Protection Agency and the passage of the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Endangered Species Act, whereas Earth Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas Earth Day is intended to inspire awareness of and appreciation for the Earth's environment, and now therefore be proclaimed that by the Borough Council of the Borough of Highbridge that we do hereby proclaim Friday, April 22nd, 2022 as Earth Day in the Borough of Highbridge, and we urge all citizens to celebrate Earth Day and support efforts to protect our environment. Okay, to public comments, 3 minutes per person. It is the policy of the Borough Council that all public comments on issues shall be limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments may be made on any subject pertaining to borough issues. Comments pertaining to public hearings should be saved to that section of the agenda. Each person may speak once during the public comment section. No debating between residents. Comments should be addressed to Mayor, Council, the public, and microphone.
Everybody, solid work, solid food. At our last meeting, I strongly objected to Councilperson Schwartz's challenge to the salary and wage resolution and his lack of trust in our borough administrator's report on that. I want to clarify my position. Since 2019, when Mayor Michelle Reed began serving our borough after defeating past Republican Mayor Mark Desire, she successfully encouraged all our borough employees to work together and to work hard to improve Highbridge for all our residents and visitors alike. With that encouragement, and I dare say vision, Highbridge has witnessed its third flat annual budget at the municipal level. Thanks for that, Mayor Reed, and CFO Luke Conley. Thank you. With that same encouragement towards our Board of Education, it appears that that part of the residents' property taxes will see its lowest per home monthly increase since the 2017-18 audit. Thanks again, Mayor Reed. When at the last meeting I heard resident Scarcia thank Councilperson Schwartz for delaying wage and salary increases for our borough employees. She called it a good service for our taxpayers. And her sentiments were echoed by a couple of other residents. I ask of you, how is withholding increases in wages for a dedicated borough employee any kind of good service to taxpayers. To me, the only result of delaying these is wages increases, the lowering of morale among those who work so hard for each of us, each and every day, and for some both day and night, as is the case with our police force and our Department of Public Works people. These are the good folks who keep our faucets running, our toilets flushing, and our roads safe for us all during these snowy nights so you and I can climb out of our warm beds to drive safely to work. And I ask, how does challenging the credibility of our employees' increases translate into a good service for our residents? It doesn't. So, for goodness sake, to those few of you who have been coming to council meetings and repeatedly insinuating one way or another the need for transparency, which already exists, please stop it. You are not helping build community. Mayor Lee is the ultimate example of transparency. Before she began her service to us in this capacity, all council meetings were held in person, often with very little attendance. It is our Mayor, Michelle Lee, who brought videotaping of all our council meetings to all the people to view clearly and freely in the comfort of their own homes at their convenience. Don't think for even 1 second that the majority of our residents are fooled by repetitive rhetoric insinuating any lack of transparency by our mayor. We should know her as Mayor Michelle Transparency Lee. Thank you, Mayor, for your kind and continued honest service. Oh, and on a lighter note, hummingbirds are on their way back to New Jersey, so put your feet up.
First up, discussion item, we have Natalie Berry, Historical Committee Liaison.
Great, thank you. We have a slide presentation. As I'm speaking, you can watch along the slide presentation. So, Adam, next slide, please. So all of you are familiar, I'm sure, here in the room, and hopefully those watching on video. Historic Solitude House. We will be having a brunch with the mayor later this month that we'll be advertising, and I encourage all residents to come by and see what we've been doing at the Solitude House. Next slide, please. So our first goal this year, it's a goal that we've been working on for a couple of years now, is the Historic Registry application. So we plan to continue to aid in the research and preparation of the National and State Historic Registry application, and the submission is planned for July of 2022. A New Jersey Historic Trust grant was awarded in 2022 to provide funding for professional services by Dennis Burton Associates to complete the application for State and National Registry of Historic Places and to develop a strategic plan with a new mission and vision statement for Solitude House. The committee historian has conducted extensive research for Dennis Burton Associates, provides supporting documentation, and committee stakeholder meetings have been held to review and interpret stakeholder interviews that have been conducted in the fall of 2021. So various people throughout the community have been interviewed for their input on what they thought the vision of Solitude House should be. And the committee also, along with the strategic plan, along with the stakeholder interviews, was working on the strategic plan as well for several meetings to be able to prepare and sustain a plan for the future, so that way Solitude House could generate its own income and provide monies for restoration and ongoing maintenance. Next slide, please. So Solitude House repairs. The 2022 Hunterdon County Historic Preservation Grant application for the rebuilding of a two-story north porch has been prepared and submitted just this week, as well as the 2022 New Jersey Historic Trust grant application has also been submitted to cover architectural documents for the north porch. Building for the west porch will begin in the spring, and work is estimated to start in early summer. So that is the grant that we received last summer, which will fix that porch that's being held up with wood at this time. Unfortunately, we didn't have a heavy winter with snow, so we were worried about that coming down, but that's a very exciting milestone for us. The committee's also working to finish the second floor remodel at Solitude House and continue preparation for use of the garage in the annex building. also, a goal that we've been wanting to complete for many years now is to complete the driveway Stonewall repair and the repair of the driveway and the parking area. Most of you who walk by there know that it's in incredible need of repair. So that's a huge goal, and we'll certainly be celebrating once we get that done. So, and also just for some of you who might not understand the process, I myself am still on a learning curve of how all of this works with the grant applications. But when we're awarded a grant, that money is still for the West Side porch. It's still with the county. It's not handed over to us. It's very specific. It's for that West Side porch. There's strict criteria, so it's not like we get handed money and we can do whatever we want with it. So it's under strict guidelines. Next slide, please. So fundraising. As we've rehabilitated the house and the first floor, we created this little store called Taylor Trade. And within the store, you can see in the pictures, various committee members have developed different types of merchandise for fundraising, and it's been really successful, and it's fun to come to Solitude House and buy something and have a little souvenir. We had a school class trip from, and I apologize to the school for not remembering the school name, but it was a private school out in Colorado. And they came by and they were super excited with learning about the history of Solitude, about the history of the Taylor Iron Steel Company and Highbridge. And also get to stop into the little shop and buy a few things. And also thank you to the volunteers who have supported selling the merchandise, creating merchandise, helping us with marketing, and just getting the word out that we're doing something at Solitude House. So. Also keep an eye out for our Tisco market, which will start this next month, and that's every fourth Saturday of the month, and that will be in the area which will soon be developed into the grounds for art, which is another exciting project that another group is working on. So next slide, please. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. In our merchandise, we developed these awesome little booklets, which goes through the renovation of what we've done at Solitude House. And this little booklet's dedicated to a committee member who unfortunately we lost, passed away in December, Joseph Brennan. And we're selling those for $10 each, and it all goes back into helping the renovations at the house. So, sorry, I had to peddle my wares while I...
They're nice books. They're very nice books.
It came out wonderfully, and... Greg Lindgren, and also the gentleman who used to video our meetings, took a lot of pictures and videos, and also Brandon Tedesco, a new resident of Highbridge, also contributed some photographs in there as well. So it's all volunteers helping us, great big effort for Highbridge and for Solitude. So Springside Cleanup. So this is something that various passionate volunteers have tried to get started in the past. We had put up a tarp twice. Unfortunately, that has blown off, but that's not going to stop us. We're going to continue with the cleanup at Springside Farms and also work with the NJDEP and develop a plan that meets the Green Acres requirements. And we also learned that currently we're prohibited in ground disturbance. So the community garden, which was a really awesome idea, which I would love Highbridge to have a community garden. But unfortunately right now, because of the strict guidelines with what we can do on the property, we can't do that. But we will be figuring out something that we could do with that property and eventually getting that restored, and hopefully some grants there as well. Next slide, please. And volunteer recruitment. We're going to focus on getting more volunteers in, and that's really the heartbeat of how all of this can happen. It's not something one person can do, but it's really a community effort. And there's something for everyone. So whether you're into gardening or painting, we have volunteers who are passionate about shrimping. We have plenty of shrimping. So that's awesome. So there's a lot that we can do to get this going together. So just reach out to history@highbridge.org and let us know what your your talent is, what your passion is, and if you'd like to join us. You don't necessarily have to be a history geek, because it's an awesome way to be a part of what we're doing. So the next slide, please. So I will end with, if you are interested in having an event, a private family event, contact us at history@highbridge.org. As you can see in the pictures, the building has really changed inside. It's really quite amazing what's been done in there with the effort of many people. And also keep in mind, all of the committees in Highbridge are welcome to use the space for free because they branch off of the government of Highbridge. So like whether you're the creative team or the economic development committee, whoever, you can use that meeting space so long as it's available. And anyone else who might be interested, give us a shout, send us an email. Everything that goes back into that house helps restore it. So it's an awesome way to celebrate life's milestones and also do something great for the community. So those are our goals. That's what we plan to keep on moving forward, and hopefully we'll report back to you that we get another grant this coming summer. So thank you for listening. And stop by after the meeting, check out the booklet. Thanks.
Thanks, Heather. You did a great job. Okay, on to public hearings. We have ordinance 2022-011, purchase of DPW vehicle F-350. Motion to open the public hearing. Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes.
Mr. Silvestri, do you have an update on this, or you want to just give a background?
Yeah, so I wasn't prepared for that, but Rick and I had spoken about this vehicle already, so it's fine. I believe it's a 2006 pickup truck that is just out of service. It's breaking down all the time. We're putting more money than it's worth into this vehicle. And you know, if you want to maintain a DPW, you have to maintain equipment and update your fleet, and this is part of that process. So Rick and I spoke about this. I'm personally very comfortable with updating this equipment and moving forward.
Thanks, Heather. Any comments from council? Public comments, anything?
Great idea, it's gonna snow off the roads. Thank you, guys.
Okay, motion to close the public hearing for ordinance 2022-011.
Second.
Motion to adopt ordinance 2022.
We'll do that. Oh, you said roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes. Okay. Motion to adopt ordinance 2022-011. Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes.
Okay, now we have a long list of introductions. Ordinance 2022-012, capital improvements for firehouse. Motion to introduce.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes. Ordinance 2022-012 shall be published in the Express Times and in the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of April 28, 2022. Ordinance 2022-013, capital improvements, preliminary engineering. Motion to introduce. Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-013 shall be published in the Express Times and in the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of April 28, 2022. Ordinance 2022-014, multi-use trailer. Motion to introduce.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange? Yes. And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-014 shall be published in the Express Times and in the Hunterdon County County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of April 28, 2022. Ordinance 2022-015, purchase of water meters. Motion to introduce.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange. And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-015 shall be published in the Express Times and of the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of April 28, 2022. Ordinance 2022-016, Solid Waste Natural Recycling Center. Motion to introduce.
Move. Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-016 shall be published in the Express Times and of the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of April 28, 2022. Ordinance 2022-017, water main improvements, various streets. Motion to introduce.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz. Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange. And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-017 shall be published in the Express Times and of the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of May 12, 2022. Ordinance 2022-018, water main improvements, West Main Street. Motion to introduce.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
Ordinance 2022-018 shall be published in the Express Times and of the Hunterdon County Democrat, along with the public hearing date of May 12, 2022. Ordinance 2022-019, amend Chapter 145, Farmers Markets. Motion to introduce.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
Okay, on to the consent agenda. Does anyone like to pull anything out? All good? Okay, motion to approve consent agenda, Resolution 107 through Resolution 116.
Move. Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
Okay, on to old business, Resolution 104-2022, salary and wages.
Mayor, I'm going to suggest that maybe we amend the agenda on this.
Okay.
Because many of the items that are in this resolution are going to be discussed in executive session. And there also may be discussion about other issues before executive session. Because pursuant to the rights notice, certain employees asked to have the discussion about them in open session. So I'm going to suggest that maybe we put this, move this resolution to after Resolution 119-2022.
Can you just repeat that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, to after Resolution 119-2022.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation.
That would be after coming.
After executive session, yes. Because then the council will know what they want to vote on, how they want to vote on this. And so that'll be part of the choices the council will have in terms of voting on this.
Okay. So can I get a motion to amend the agenda to move Resolution 104 to after executive session? Is that correct?
After Resolution 119,
Oh, in
2022.
executive. Yeah, got it.
It will be after executive session because you're not allowed to vote on these in executive
Right.
session.
Right.
Right.
Okay, I second his move.
I'm sorry, who had the motion? Fair. Okay.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
Okay, public comments, 1 minute per person. Legal issues, Barry.
No, there has been no legal issue.
What about your
No,
knee?
no.
Isn't that illegal?
Yeah, really. No medical malpractice case, thankfully.
Yeah.
No, nothing to report on tonight.
Okay, great. Communications.
We have the March zoning report and the notice of hearing for Elizabethtown Gas, changes in the gas service.
Bill list.
$381,916.99.
Okay, motion to approve the bill list.
Move.
Second. Roll call.
Graham,
Yeah.
Hughes, Schwartz,
Yes.
Silvestri,
Yes.
Strange,
Yeah.
and Fair.
Yes. Okay, motion to move.
You know what, Mayor, before you do that, because there were, let me just count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different employees who received the rights notice, who said that they would rather have any job performance salary evaluation for them individually, discussed in open session. If there's going to be any discussion about those individuals with regard to their performance, their salary, that has to be done in open session. The executive session can deal with other employees who did not request to have it discussed in open session. The executive session also can include the issue that I know has been discussed of the totality of the compensation package itself, because that's for all employees. That's not really, you're not talking about individual employees when you're talking about that. So that you can do in executive session too. But you cannot talk about those 7 individuals in executive session. If you want to discuss them, I suggest that be discussed now before you go into executive session. I don't know if each of you received the names of the individuals. You want to read them or you want me to? Yeah, I wrote them down. Hopefully I wrote them down correctly. Alan Brower, Rick Roll, Rick Draft, Aaron Mandigo, Juan Correa, Jeffrey Smith, David Banks. 7 of them requested that anything about them be discussed in open session.
Just to understand, you said job performance?
Yes, anything, yeah, job performance, their salary, whether the increase for that's proposed is appropriate. Yeah, under the way the Open Public Meetings Act works, is if you, the council, are not discussing any terms of compensation that may affect an employee in executive session, we have to someone pull the rights notice to that individual. In this case, we sent it to all the employees of the borough because it would affect all of them. And the employees then have the right to say, no, I don't want to discuss in executive session. I want it right out there in the open as part of the public meeting, not executive session. And so these individuals have said they don't want to discuss in executive session. They want any performance evaluation of them, any discussion of their individual compensation to be discussed in open session. And that's their right to do.
How many total employees do we have? Total? Including part-timers?
So like how many of those notices did go out?
I believe it was 28.
How many?
I believe 28.
28?
You were talking.
So, start talking?
You know what, probably to officially do it, there probably should be a motion to amend the agenda to discuss, these employees, these 7 employees, so if there is any discussion.
Just so everyone is aware, the 7 employees are all the DPW department, so we
Is Alan Brown? Alan Brown is Water Department, but the other role is DPW.
Yeah, so they're on a separate resolution than the remainder
Which is-
21 employees.
Which is why it was done that way, so after the executive session, there are now 3 choices that the council will have in terms of resolution. You can pass a resolution that pulls out the DPW people, and I'm going to suggest also maybe Alan Brown if you want. You don't have to Alan Brown, just the DPW people, sorry. Second resolution that would deal with the DPW employees. And then if you wanted to, we just put the resolution that has everybody in it at the end. So you could just do them all in one, if that's what you choose to do. But we broke it down that way, we thought that would make the most sense in the scheme of things.
So motion to,
Amend the agenda to include a discussion about the 7 individuals, if any.
so a motion to amend the agenda to include the 7 individuals who want this discussed in the open public session.
Move.
Second.
Roll call.
Graham.
Yes.
Hughes. Schwartz. Silvestri. Strange. And Ferry.
Yes. So who wants to open the session?
I'd like to open the discussion. I want to look into those, looking at your salary and benefits. Just to start it off, looking at his salary, which drift I believe, based on the salary guides, or the salary information. His salary in 2021 was $65,966. And according to the resolution that you're taking a look at, it would give him an effective 10% raise. I believe it was shown in the document as a 2% raise and then a $5,000 adjustment. Is that correct, Bonnie? Now, in the last few months, in December of 2021, Council approved additional compensation for certain employees. Employees who have, I believe it's 25 years or more of experience or working with the borough and are pensionable. Rich is one of those employees that will become pensionable within a couple of years. That resolution that was passed back in December, Resolution 260-2021, also known as Chapter 48, provided Rick and all the borough employees who would meet the criteria.
Rich and Drift.
Rich, I'm sorry, Rich. All the borough employees who meet the criteria would get retiree health benefits, which they never would have gotten before Chapter 48, the passing of Chapter 48. Chapter 48 is, in my view, is a very expensive benefit to provide to our employees that was never conceived of, as far as I know, before. And the amount of money that the borough will be paying in compensation to those employees when they retire, if they retire before the age of 65, is approximately $30,000 a year per employee in healthcare benefits until they reach the age of 65. After they reach the age of 65, the number goes down because portions of that healthcare benefit are taken over by Medicare, Medicaid, and the borough would pay a smaller portion of the healthcare benefit from that point until they and their spouse pass away. It's a huge cost to the borough for these retiree healthcare benefits. Something that Rich didn't have for his first 22, 23 years of service to the borough, and didn't really expect it, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. This is a very expensive benefit. If you add up that $30,000 per year for the years between his projected retirement and his reaching age 65. And he can retire at the age of 57, I believe. It's in 2023. He'll get about $250,000 of healthcare benefits during that time frame until he reaches 65. And then beyond that time frame, it's another approximately, I believe it's close to $400,000 between the age of 65 and assuming he passes away at the age of 80. And that's the information. I hope he doesn't pass away. But this is a brand new benefit that the borough adopted in December of '21, which I vehemently did not want to pass because it's a very expensive cost to the borough. It's a great boon for Rich. If I were him, I won in a second. When I retire, I get an additional, at a minimum, I believe it's $300,000, and a maximum of about $500,000 or $600,000 in health care benefits. Something I never expected before. If I were him, darn right I'd want it. But it's all part of employee compensation. And coupling the huge overtime expenditure of healthcare for Rich, compounding that with a 10% raise this year, I can't approve both ends of that compensation. I think to retain an employee, a valuable employee, we want to pay him what he's worth, what the competitive field is telling us. If other towns are paying that much, no problem. But as far as salary goes, but as far as the retiree health care benefit goes, in my view, that's a huge cost to the borough. Regardless of whether we can pay for it or not, it's a huge additional piece of compensation for Rick. In addition to the pretty sizable salary raise that we're contemplating, 10%. If we were to rescind Chapter 48, if we were going to exclude Rich from Chapter 48, or just rescind it in its entirety, I would have no problem paying the 10% salary increase. But coupled together, I don't think it's right for the borough. It's great for Rich, absolutely. I don't think it's good for the taxpayers. I don't think it's a good precedent to set either.
Do your concerns have anything at all to do with the job performance of Rich or any of the other people?
No, I think our DPW does a great job.
I think that's worth at least.
It's just, I'm trying to look after the town's tax dollars too. I don't want to rubber stamp everything that comes across our desk. Whatever is on our agenda. I try to look at this stuff. I try to look at the best interest of the town, despite what Sally might think. I'd be interested to hear what the other council people have to say about the huge healthcare increase that retiree healthcare increase that we're contemplating. We've kind of given at this point to the long-term employees that they didn't expect before. I mean, this is huge. It's huge dollars, and not just cumulatively, on a person-by-person basis. And it's real compensation. They may not get it in one lump sum. It's $30,000 a year until they reach the year 65, and then it's a reduced amount after that. It's probably going to be in the range of $15,000 to $20,000, and then increasing from that point forward. And regardless of what people might say, it is a cost. It is a cost, and these guys. I mean, I understand the employees wanting the benefit. It's just a very, very expensive benefit for us to provide.
I mean, I'll say that anytime you have something that the town pays for, you got to, you have a cost benefit. Having roads costs a lot of money. Teaching kids costs a lot of money. But sometimes those benefits are worth it, and it could very well be that this is worth it. I mean, I'm not sure I can state that, that I know that it's worth it, but I certainly am willing to entertain the idea that this might be very much worth the cost. I certainly don't disagree with the idea that that might have an impact as we move ahead on salary increases. I mean, as people know, I'm a teacher. I don't expect to ever get a giant salary. I see those two things as combined, so I'm willing to accept a salary that doesn't, I'm not going to have big bonuses or anything for the other benefits that go along with it. They're tied together, I see. So I can certainly see the idea that if benefits change in some manner, salaries might not, and vice versa. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I think that a lot of the perceived increases in individual pay from 2021 to 2022 were the result of the jobs being moved to a different line so that they were put together into one number instead of a few numbers. And I think that was a lot of the confusion that I think people expressed. It's complicated in all those lines, and sometimes one job is now taken over by another person, so those two numbers go onto one line. So I think that is a lot of the confusion, I personally think. I'm not always aware exactly of what, I know that there's, there are longevity things, there are other issues that come up with salary that are not a part of an increase. So those are separate things, typically viewed separately. If someone's been teaching for 25 years or doing something for 50 years, whatever, there are things where you get a little extra thing for longevity that isn't included in typically when you calculate the percentage, even though it is a part of the change. I don't know. I don't know.
And to add to that, I know all of us probably reached out to Bonnie throughout the last couple weeks since the last council meeting to get a better understanding, and maybe it would be helpful. And Bonnie, if you could, I know last time I had called in, so I wasn't here at the table, but and I know you went over and you did your whole presentation, but maybe for the public, if you could explain the logic behind, which I think Steve, you explained it well, but I think what's confusing to the public are those line items and how it works, how you arrive at those decisions of who gets what and how much. Maybe if you want, I don't know if it's necessary to repeat that, but I think it would be maybe helpful for people to understand.
As far as the different
Like why?
positions that go
Yes.
into.
Mhm.
Yeah, so certain employees have different titles, and each of those titles comes with a different salary appropriation. So in some cases, if there's 4 or 5 hats that one person wears, they're going to be added up and listed in one line item as one person that's doing all those positions.
So it's not like a typical job. Like I know I went to get my job and I get, that's my salary. So in government, it's a little bit different how it's figured out.
You would have a certification to do a specific job, possibly licensed for that would be required to have that position held by somebody with a license. So anybody who has that license would be eligible for that title.
Is that line item, is in general, I guess, and not any specific, but let's say you have someone, I don't know, painting the swing sets each year, but they come in to do it from out of town, and that's all we pay them to do. And that's an amount of money on the line to paint the swing sets. And then someone that is a component of the town already, who receives other benefits and other things, we're not just paying them contracted to do that one job. Would the line item be assumed to be the exact same for that person, or would what they get paid be different because they are a part of our organization already and are fitting it into their 40-hour, 50-hour, 60-hour work week that they are putting in? I mean, or is it always exactly the same?
I'm not sure I follow that.
Well, I mean, if we pay
Like a subcontractor?
if we pay a subcontractor.
You're talking an independent contractor coming in to paint the swings, as opposed to an employee painting the swings. An employee is going to get benefits as required by state
Right.
statute the independent contractor would not get those benefits.
Right, exactly. But the benefits, that we're saying that there's salary and wages and there's benefits. So the independent contractor, we're simply paying a payment, whatever it happens to be. Whereas an employee who's a component of the organization, would they simply receive the same exact payment? I mean, is that the assumption? The same payment?
I will tell you that typically it's done by employees when you can do it by employees, but even with the benefits, it's cheaper than having the independent contractor come in for one job. And so it's not really apples to apples. It really is not. And typically, most businesses find you're better off doing it in-house with your employees rather than bringing in that independent contractor. It's cheaper.
Well, exactly.
I say generally.
In general, but unless you say, we're going to have this, we're going to switch from an independent contractor to an in-house person, and we're going to pay them the exact same amount we would have paid the independent contractor. If you do that, then there is obviously, it's not a benefit. It's not you're not getting a deal because you're paying the exact same amount, if you choose to do that. But I guess my question was, would you assume that you would do that? Is that simply the way we have done it?
What I'm hearing, if I may, is we have a lot of employees, first of all. A lot of them don't get any type of benefit. They work per hour, part-time, or whatever. And it's those employees that do, these 4-hour jobs, maybe 3 times a week. They still get the same amount, but they're getting that 2% bump. And again, some of them got a little bit more than that just due to rounding. But if you look at the list, I think it was on the other resolution that we have, you'll see that those are nominal amounts. And they don't qualify for any benefits at all.
Right, and I'm not, I'm kind of asking a general question. If we have an outside person doing the job and we pay them $10, whatever, $10 a year, and then we decide, I don't know, Natalie's going to do it. And do we then pay her the $10 a year, but then she's also still a part of the organization and receiving benefits? Or would she receive $8 a year because she's also a part of our organization and is already receiving this other benefit? You see what I'm saying? Like, is it always automatically the same amount to have that, to cover that job? I know in business, yes, having your own in-house person, you save money on it. And that'd be the goal.
Right, but they would probably still get an increase each year.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I don't know how, I'm not going to speak for Bonnie, but the bottom line is that, it's not always a dollar-for-dollar situation. If the, independent contractor would charge $10, you don't, and you now have it done in-house, you don't automatically raise the employee's salary $10. That's not an automatic, I don't think.
That's what I'm asking. Is that how we do it or not?
That's a general rule.
I'm just asking. Yeah, okay.
It depends.
And I'm simply asking, is that our policy, or as you said, is that not our policy, or do we take it on a case-by-case basis, or as we see things combined and moved along, I think that's sometimes people see a combination and think it's something different. I'm just curious how that's handled. That's all. Is there a policy? Maybe there's not a specific policy. I don't know.
Steve, are you thinking of a specific employee?
I'm just looking at a chart with there's a lot of numbers, and sometimes those numbers move from one place to another. Right. And I guess the question is, do they typically, that amount simply go to and be added in the same exact amount to another salary, or is it not always the same amount that gets added to another salary?
So I think if you were talking about someone painting a place set, it's different. But if we're talking about, for instance, our old administrator, when he left, we looked at that role, we wanted to fill it, we filled it with a new administrator, but the salary was much less because it was just simply tacked on to some of the other roles that she was already doing. So if you remember, we kind of talked with what would be a reasonable salary, and she accepted, and we actually saved money with that. So that, I think, I understand what you're saying, but I think if we're talking with the example of Richie Drift, and I hope he stays for a long time, but if he was to retire, it's most likely we would find in fact, we did it with police. We were able to hire 2 police for the price of a bunch of
new guys.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we have a small borough. You can look at all the employees and kind of make a good estimate of what would happen when they retire.
And once again, I'm just people have asked questions, and I'm just trying to understand the way that the decisions are made and just trying to clarify.
I'd like to go back to where Mr. Schwartz was going, and to all the borough employees back there at DPW. I've been the liaison for a few months now. I've met all of them. I've driven out to some water main breaks just to see how they operate, and these guys are spot on every day. So this is not a performance review conversation. It's really a conversation of your wage benefit compared to your compensation benefit. And the compensation benefit is really large with lifetime benefits. And my example, I'm in a private union, so you guys are not unionized, but I'm in a private union where we pay for our own benefits. Healthcare and our lifetime benefits are so out of control that our next contracts, we are not getting any raises to pay for these benefits moving forward. And that's really the conversation I think Mr. Schwartz is trying to bring in, is that we have to, if we're going to continue with Chapter 48 and lifetime benefits, then we have to measure a way of giving raises and compensating you guys and ladies in your pocket while we maintain being able to pay for these extra benefits down the road. And I think that's the balance we're trying to understand. This is clearly not a performance review on anyone here, because like I said, I think you guys are all spot on in my short time here. So I just want you to understand that part of it.
Thank you, Steve.
Is that,
That was exactly what
as
we-
someone is getting ready to retire, and we know that, because right now we are not aware of anyone looking to retire. If they're looking to retire, and we know that those benefits are going to start kicking in, we have real numbers we can work with. And we can actually look for how we want to replace that person, and what it's going to cost for the benefits, and what that difference is going to be between the benefit and the new hire, and what we got back from that retiree's salary.
So those are the numbers that all last fall that you guys were referencing to.
Well, we were
Right.
estimating.
Right.
You can't put a true number without real facts. So we were,
I mean, at one point, I thought we had, everyone on council was talking about, a company did number work, and that's where a lot of this started, the disagreement or the misunderstanding of moving forward with Chapter 48. Those numbers, and we have to put out a model that we can see and understand. Right? And we have to be pretty close, that someone's retired in 3 to 5 years, and we kind of forecast what the market will be, right?
yeah, that's what that advisor put together for us.
There was kind of disagreement last fall about this, moving all the way down the line, and it still isn't resolved, and now it's 4 more months down the road, and, I guess this is the time we really need to wrap our hands around
Well, I
this and
think
get
what
through the situation.
you guys are looking for is something that's going to be a much longer process than the salary wage increase. So first of all, we have to agree of who this expert is, because, well, we have our auditor here tonight, I believe. Yeah, so maybe when we go into executive session, he can address this. But
That would be great.
if we don't accept our CFO's numbers, and we don't accept our financial advisor's numbers, whose numbers are we going to agree on that can give us a conversation? An honest
Those
discussion.
are numbers
Well,
that I
Michelle, the numbers that were provided to us from our supposedly independent financial advisor, I'm not saying one, I'm talking about the Phoenix Group.
Our actual financial advisor.
They don't say that there's a cost savings or there's no cost to the benefit. They don't say that at all. They do not. There's a real cost to providing the Chapter 48 benefits. And you may say there's a way to pay for it through taking the money from the golf course or someone else's salary. But those costs are real costs and real increases in their compensation that can't be offset. You can pay for them somehow. You can tax people more. You can take money from the golf course, but it's not going to
No one's
decrease their
suggesting
amount
taking
of
money from the golf
compensation.
That's not.
Well,
In fact, that wouldn't even work.
Right, but I mean, and also, when someone retires and you're able to hire, breakage, when you're able to hire someone at a lower cost. Obviously, that costs less money now, paying someone who gets paid less, someone.
Potential.
Well, I mean, okay, exactly. If you're able to hire someone at a lower salary because they're slightly, less experienced and new, whatever, obviously you've had some savings there by doing that, and maybe those savings are greater than the cost of providing a benefit after retirement. So you have a net savings that is, a savings. Of course, it's not as much as it would have been if the person retired and you had a cheaper person and you didn't provide the savings, but maybe that encourages, of course, retirement or other things to happen, which then makes it happen sooner. So I can see how it could be, in some ways, it might, as I said, things cost money, and a lot of times it's worth spending that money for a lot of different reasons, and even though it costs money, it is always worth looking to see, are all of the benefits worth the cost, and I think that's important to do. But anyway.
Who else is on the list?
Alan Brown, Rick Roll, Aaron Mendigo, Juan Correa, Jeffrey Smith, and David Banks.
Do we have any, we can sit here, but it's just, we don't have anything specific to say about those individuals. I mean, I don't have anything, I certainly don't have any performance evaluation. I don't have any job evaluations to say.
But it's also salary related to anything to do with salary or no?
For those,
Anything related to salary of any of those people has to be an open session.
I mean,
how about identifying which of the lines are those people if we don't know which ones are which? I mean, would that be considered? And I'm not trying to be funny, but I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't want to accidentally mention a line that is one of these people, and I didn't know that, exactly which one's which on the list.
I think that's a fair question, yeah.
I mean, could Bonnie tell us those line items in the executive session, or does that have to be done now? I don't know.
I think it should be done now.
Okay.
For those people, I think you should know, absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean,
Otherwise, you didn't have that information.
I mean, I don't know exactly who each of these lines is. I don't.
Line 6 is Aaron Mendigo.
that's laborer.
Yes. The laborer underneath that would be Juan Correa.
And road supervisor is
Rich.
Rich. That's right.
Yes.
Are those the only full-time employees that have requested to be talked about in open session?
Okay, so page 2. Extra labor, CDL. Would be the 2 part-time, Jeff and Dave.
But the only full-time employees that have asked or requested to be talked about in open session are Warren Correa, Richie Drift, and I forgot.
Aaron and Rick Roll.
Right.
And water operator is Al Brower.
And he's not a full-time employee, correct?
Is he a full-time employee? No, he's a part-time employee.
It's the very last.
Oh, so, yeah, I got it. Okay.
do have some questions, not criticisms, but just some questions about Rick Roll. It's my understanding that his line items, I didn't realize this before, are Director DPW/Water, is that correct? CCO, is that correct? And Fire Marshal. What is CCO?
Continuing occupancy when the change in tenants, inspection for that.
I didn't,
Certification of continuing
Oh, okay.
occupancy, like.
TCOs. He's the TCO inspector essentially, or continuing certificate of occupancy inspector? I guess the only question, further question, with regards to the fire marshal, who did that function prior to Rick being appointed the fire marshal?
The state.
The state? And now that it belongs to the borough, or Rick's responsibility, how does the borough get paid for that? Does the borough get paid for it and then we reimburse Rick? Or how does it work in regards to the fire marshal?
People that are required to file inspections file them with the state, as they did before. The state collects the fees. When they did it on their own, obviously they withheld all the fees for themselves. If we have our own fire marshal, they return 65% of the fees to the borough. There are also additional fees that are now charged for a difference between life hazard and non-life hazard fees, which we didn't collect previously, that we would now be able to collect. And then the fees that we do collect would offset what the salary is.
But it's kind of conjecture on how much, what fees you'll actually be bringing in on a yearly basis,
Right,
correct?
based on some prior experience, we had some roughly $11,000 that come back to us.
Right, but it is
The same
somewhat
inspections
conjecture.
occur year after year, so unless there's a change in the fees.
These are repeat inspections of businesses and things like that. Although I guess also when you sell a building, maybe there's things like that too, I guess, but it's a cycle of it.
Right.
And we, meaning the borough, pays for the insurance for Rick as well, is that correct? Or holds the insurance for him being the fire marshal?
There's no additional insurance. Liability insurance is covered.
Right, it's covered by the town because he's a town employee.
But there's no change for him becoming the fire marshal for the insurance cost.
Okay. Those are the only questions I had about Rick's salary and his compensation and how it worked with regards to the fire marshal.
So it sounds like it's a value considering it's just the amount of $6,466 that he gets, and you're saying we get 11. So
Prior experience, yeah.
it sounds like it's definitely worth having our own fire marshal.
Oh, I think the fire marshal's up here on the other line, 8,000,
That was 8?
which would be,
Fire sub, what's this?
that's
Subcode
fire,
official.
what do you call it, building inspector, fire subcode.
Oh,
That's
that's a
something
different
different,
one.
I think.
Oh, okay.
I think that's a subcontractor, is that correct, that we pay?
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so where is it? Well, it's still,
It's like line 5. At the top.
Does Rick work any
That's the
additional
wrong one.
hours? He does. Okay.
well, still it comes in under
Oh, you know
11,
what?
so it's still.
This is in the
Oh,
supporting
okay, you're looking at a
documents.
different one.
Supporting
Okay.
documents. Sorry. Take a look at it.
Either way, it still sounds like it's
Right.
worth it, so.
I think that at this point, motion to move into executive session would be in order, assuming that the council still wants to go into executive session. To discuss other employees and the compensation package issue further.
Motion to move into executive session. Move.
Second?
Roll call.
Graham? Yes. Hughes? Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange?
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes. And one question, Larry, so since we broke these out, are we can still talk about the, DPW resolution, or is it? Are we done
No,
talking
we're
about
done
that?
talking about the DPW employees, I mean, their salaries and performance or anything related to DPW per se.
All of them are on that separate paper.
Right.
That's the
That's
idea.
correct, and that's one of the reasons why we
Right,
did it that
exactly.
way.
Okay, makes
To try
sense.
to give the council options on that.
It's easier than counting lines on the thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Any idea how long?
And taken,
Action may be taken
Afterwards.
yeah, after the executive.
when we get to it.
Yeah.
Okay, now we're good to go.
Okay, so we're on Resolution 118-2022, Salary and Wages 1. And we are looking to amend that with a footnote to,
1 second
I think
there.
actually it was 104.
1 second there.
But that's coming after the other two.
oh, I thought we were doing 104 after the first two, sorry.
No, actually, the order that we presently have.
We amended it to be after 119-2022.
Yeah. I have the wrong thing in front of me.
It'll become moot if it's after.
There we go, there we go.
Right, I mean,
Yeah, so what I would suggest, Mayor, is ask if anybody wants to move the resolution 118-2022.
as amended.
That's not amended. It has not been amended,
Okay.
okay? Ask if anybody wants to move it. And then if nobody moves that, I'd ask about resolution 119-2022, if anybody wants to move that. If nobody moves that, then we move on to the original resolution and we amend the original resolution.
Prior to motion.
Exactly, prior to adopting it.
Okay, I had it backwards, but, okay. Okay, motion to adopt Resolution 118-2022, Salary and Wages 1.
Anybody want to move that? Fails for a move it in a second. Maybe you can move on to 119.
Okay, motion to adopt Resolution 119-2022, Salary and Wages 2.
Anybody want to move that? Mayor, it fails for a move it in a second.
Okay. Resolution 104-2022, Salary and Wages.
May I suggest that that be amended?
I'll make a motion to amend the third lot. Oh, I got it now. Hold on.
Police chief.
Whatever, the one that says police chief. To include the notation of, I believe it was 2% plus contractual. Now it just zoomed out on me.
May I suggest, Stephen, a motion that I wrote down?
Okay, go ahead.
Do
Yeah,
a
yours is probably a lot
Yeah.
better.
As a footnote to police chief's
There you go.
salary as reflected on the third line there.
There you go.
The footnote, I would say, includes base salary for 2022 of $128,000 and $15,020 payments for past salary due. That would be the amendment I would suggest.
I make a motion that we amend it that way.
Second.
Yeah.
I tried to, let me just make sure I just subtracted 143.20 and 120.
You got it right. I had the same numbers.
Okay. I went to law school, I'm not an accountant.
Okay.
I don't want to get the numbers wrong.
All right, so I have a motion from Strange.
And I think
I
he's
Second from Schwartz, okay.
Okay, motion to adopt Resolution 104.
Before you have to vote on it,
Yeah.
Mayor.
Oh, on the amendment, sorry.
All right. Graham?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri?
Yes.
Strange?
Yes.
And Fair.
Yeah. Motion to adopt Resolution 104-2022 as amended.
Move.
Second?
Roll call.
Graham?
Yes.
Hughes?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Silvestri? Yes. Strange?
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes.
All right. There's no further business. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Roll call.
Graham. Yes. Hughes.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Silvestri.
Yes.
Strange.
Yes.
And Fair.
Yes. All right, next council meeting, April 28th, 7:30, right here.
Yeah, I swear.